All right, YouTube, Repo Man 64 out here in the secret broadcast cave. Time, time. They have been trying to figure out the rapture date from the very beginning. We can look back and Google and see that they've been trying to figure this out from the very beginning. And over the last, I'd say 40 years, it increased exponentially. And then when the Revelation 12 sign happened, it woke up more people than I personally have ever seen in the years I've been trying to figure it out. I've said this many times. I've made many timelines when they did not, when everything I found in the Bible did not fit, I had to throw it away. I attempted to make corrections, and one correction would make another one not fit. So I had to throw it out. But this last timeline, starting the year on March 17th, has worked. Segments of it in the timeline, I realized I told you that in my last video because I was looking at Ascension Day as being May 30th. I began counting to May 30th from when Jesus met them on the shore with bread and fish. I thought I was right and I had made a mistake. I don't know why I didn't figure it out sooner, but I finally did. In the last few videos, I came out and said that, in fact, Ascension Day is May 14th. Did God tell us from the very beginning? Did he tell us on May 14th at 11:59 p.m. in Israel, May 14th became a nation? Now, one would think 70 years, 80 years, but then he changes the name of Jacob to Israel. And we know Jacob left Esau. Esau is not a picture of somebody that's going to hell. For Jacob I have loved and Esau I have hated. This is a this is a this is a bad translation. I don't know how else to put it. It's Jacob I have loved and Esau I have loved less. Jacob went away or was carried away from Esau. Esau is a picture of the tribulation saint. The best explanation I can give of a tribulation saint is this: they are saved from the lake of fire, but they counted on their works, therefore they will go into the tribulation and be refined. This is a hard subject. It's a very hard subject for people and their insecurities. A lot of people have extreme insecurities over whether or not they're saved. And I can assure you that if you're 99% of you that are here that are trying to figure this out, fervently going through scripture, trying to figure it out, are saved. We're talking about the people who are in church. Don't watch these videos. We'll tell you flat out, you can't know the day or the hour. Once saved, always saved is silly, that you got to keep working and being good to be saved, or you've got to donate money, or there's all these different works that they bring to the gospel. And Jesus was abundantly clear that faith cometh by hearing and hearing by the word of God, that we are justified by faith and faith alone, not by works, lest any man shall boast. But then we have a passage which is not geared towards a bride. It says that faith without works is dead. Ye must be baptized of water. And what this is a message to the tribulation saints. They will have to work during the tribulation. There is work for them to do. They are saved from the lake of fire, but they are not saved from tribulation. When we become saved from the lake of fire. We do not become saved from tribulation. That is a big confusion. People say, well, they're saved from the truth. No, they're saved from the lake of fire. There's more refining for them to do. And this is, again, a hard subject. And I personally think that the person that explains that the best is Wayne over at We Are the Overcomers. It's a really good channel. And he tackles that very tough issue. And he has done the research in that subject to bring it to you properly. I can only say it, but he actually can explain it perfectly in the Bible. What I do is timelines. That's what I work on. That's my gift. And when I see something Uh, and for example, 40 days after Jesus was born, we saw that the moon was blood red until it crossed over Uranus on November the 8th. That is exactly 40 days. Jesus was born on September the 30th. Things like that can't line up by accident. We see that the Revelation 12 sign, they're trying to say, oh, it was on the Feast of Trumpets. It wasn't, because Feast of Trumpets was on the 22nd. The Revelation 12 sign actually happened just before, and again, just before midnight uh, in Israel on the 23rd, which makes it the 24th, because everything past sunset at 6, and including the Gregorian way of counting at midnight, God made sure that both were included. And I have a feeling that a lot of these calendars and timelines, God made sure that they were all included. May 14th at 11:59 p.m. became May 15th. May 15th is when God told the Israelites, eat in haste, gather up all the stuff. All the Egyptians brought them the gold and everything. Gather up all that stuff and leave. We see a 1 day difference between that and when Jesus went to the cross on the 14th of Nisan. I might have said May. On the 14th of Nisan. But on the 15th of Nisan is when they left. So we have this 1 day gap. And I find that quite a bit, or that happening quite a bit in the timeline. So I had to go back and here, and again, my mistake was thinking that the 40 days began to count on the shore with bread and fish. And I had wound up with Ascension Day being on May 30th. But that's not the sign. A sign is given to this wicked generation. The sign is only given, is written in Matthew. This sign is not given to the tribulation saint. The tribulation saint will die during the tribulation and go to heaven. I have a feeling that there's a lot of tribulation saints that existed prior to this event that's about to happen, the rapture, before the, during the church age that have died, and then those that go into the tribulation. They were always counted as tribulation saints, whether they died before or after. That's the only way I can reconcile that. Otherwise, those people are just out of luck, and the people in the tribulation get a second chance. It doesn't make sense. They were saved from the lake of fire based on their belief, but also based on the works that they did. And yes, the tribulation saints will have to work. The bride does no work. The bride gets saved, and that's it. Oh, we might donate money. We might get baptized. We might walk old ladies across the street. We might do all of those things, but we know that doing those things is for nothing. They are for crowns. We watch every day, and I'm telling you, I've watched millions of videos, billions. I've watched so many videos, and I've seen the fervency of people that will look at every minute detail in their own lives, their own family members, the stars, you name it. They have an avenue or a vehicle to get to what they think might be a rapture date. And why are they doing this? Because they want it to happen. They're looking forward to it. They're using things that are happening in the world. This new pope that came online, this must mean, and I'm not going to deny any of them because they're watching and they're calculating and they're doing math and they're trying to figure this out. So I'm no different, no better, no worse than anyone else. I'm trying to figure it out. But does it turn out that God told us already, like Amos 3:7 was fulfilled on May 14th at midnight or just about midnight, 11:59 p.m. in Israel in 1948? Did that happen? Because Jacob was named Israel and he was 77 when he left Esau, the tribulation saint. Then 7 years later, he does get married to both Leah and Rachel. Leah representing the bride, Rachel representing the tribulation saint. Tribulation saint having have spent a part, and I don't think it's much time. Tribulation is 7 years. And that's where the time cut short is. All of seals are tribulation. All of trumpets is tribulation, and all of bowls is tribulation. People are trying to separate seals from tribulation. It is not. Seals is definitely a part of tribulation. All of it is. So if we start tribulation 4 months early, which by the way, May 14th, May 15th is exactly 4 months from the Feast of Trumpets. And you've heard these people say, and I'm not calling them tribulation saints by any stretch of the imagination. They're probably brides. They're just seeing a different item, but we're not going until the last trump. When they say, oh, we're going to be here during the tribulation, now they're a tribulation saint. But if they just look for a date, that's not necessarily saying that they're a tribulation saint, and a date that's far off. It's not saying they're looking forward to the rapture like the rest of us are. But I find it interesting. I find it, and I don't know why. And I'm really, you can ask Sister Sandy and Kevin Spinebreaker. I've been kicking myself, going, "How did I miss this? How did I miss this?" The sign of Jonah was simple. The sign of Jonah was not swallowed by a whale. Then he walked 7 days, and then he walked another 7 days, and then he went into Nineveh. That's not the sign of Jonah. The sign of Jonah is, I believe, it's about 3 o'clock in the afternoon when Jonah is cast into the ocean. 3 o'clock in the afternoon is the time Jesus died. I think that he stayed in the belly of the whale and was spit up on the shore. Jesus was available to come out of the grave at sunset on April the 3rd, Sunday. So it takes him time. I don't know how far it is from that shore to Nineveh, but it takes him time. Maybe it takes him until 3 o'clock in the morning to get there. In the meantime, they've seen a solar eclipse. They've seen a solar eclipse, so they think something ominous is coming. And then here comes Jonah. The people on the ship that threw him over, they're not murderers. I don't know about you. I don't know how. I got to believe that everybody watching this could not throw a human being over the edge of the ship and kill him. And watch him get eaten by a fish. I have a feeling that that would affect you psychologically. Most people we see in the TV, everybody's just capable of killing. We just aren't capable typically of killing people. None of us really are. And to make light of that situation that they did, they must have come into Nineveh and said, I don't know what to tell you. The waves were going crazy. He told us to throw him over. And then we have a solar eclipse. And they're like, oh man, God's upset over what you did. You killed one. And they know him. They know who he is. You killed him. You killed Jonah. I can't believe you did that. And then here comes Jonah walking into town, warning of a 40-day judgment on Nineveh. They must have turned white as ghosts. They must have come unglued when they saw that. You know, they're not killers, but they killed him. They had to throw him overboard. They saw the eclipse and thought that perhaps something ominous was coming because of that. And then he warns of 40 days. Jonah does not want them saved at all. Jonah is not a picture of the bride. He is a picture of the one warning, I suppose. You almost see this when Jesus says, can this cup pass for me? But it couldn't. It couldn't pass, because if it did, we wouldn't be here talking about this right now. Everything would have ended then. So let me go into the pictures and go quickly through, and I'll show you the new timeline with the patch fix that I did in regards to Ascension Day. Again, I had it on May 30th, and I was counting from Jesus on the shore with bread and fish. They caught 153 fish. I backed it up to the sign of Jonah because that is actually biblically accurate. I made a mistake, and I want to show it to you and show you how everything lands now. All right. I'm going to move me up and out of the way here. And I'm going to share this. We'll go through these quickly. I brought these to your attention before. Isn't it totally ironic that, again, Feast of Trumpets lands on September 15th of every year, and it never changes. The timeline that I built is static. The days of each day are static. Sunday will always be the day Jesus was crucified on March 30th. It can't change. It won't change. The head of the year will always be a Thursday because it's the day after the day of equal parts. When you build a timeline like this and you go all throughout the year, not a snippet of a timeline, anybody can justify a snippet of a timeline, but you got to start from March 17th or whatever date you want to, end on that date, and then tell me when was Jesus born, when was the flood, the 11 events, the 11 time events of Noah's flood, put on a timeline and make it all make sense. This makes sense. If you're into timelines, you'll readily see it. Otherwise, I'll explain it to you and perhaps you'll see it or understand part of it. 4 months after. So this says 4 months from now, there is a harvest. What happened? What's 4 months prior to trumpets? If it's saying here that there is a harvest 4 months later, isn't that ironic that May 14th, May 15th, it's actually May 15th, is exactly 4 months from September the 15th, the Feast of Trumpets. It's perfect. It's 4 months. It actually fits perfectly. So then we go and look at this 77 years. Well, this is Israel, May 15th. Again, we had to use May 15th because it was actually 11:59 p.m. On May the 14th, which was May the 15th. That covered both calendars. That covered both the Gregorian, which we switched time at midnight, and it covered Israel because they switched time at 6 p.m. or biblical time switches at 6 p.m. to the next day. So it covers both of them actually. So it's May 15th, and 4 months later is September the 14th. At sunset on September the 14th, it is the Feast of Trumpets. All right. The reason I finally caught the mistake was because of this little passage right here in Leviticus 23. When you come into the land which I give you, I admittedly made a mistake and misunderstood this and thought this had something to do with the Exodus, and it did not. This is the Joshua entering into the promised land on Nisan 10. When you come to the land which I give you, you shall reap the harvest thereof, and you shall bring the sheaf of the first fruits unto the harvest of the priest, and he shall wave it. He shall wave it the morrow after the Sabbath. So 1 week transpires here. 1 week from triumphant entry, which is Nisan 10, March 26th, to Nisan 18, which is March 3rd. This is the only time I see this, which is why I missed it. Otherwise, this is what I see. I always see March 3rd, that Nisan 3rd to Nisan, no, March, hold on. I forgot. I'm not going to put on my glasses. I'm just going to enlarge so we can all see. So we know now that the wave sheep offering happened on the day Jesus rose because he rose back here, like it said. It starts to count when they come in the promised land, but Jesus rose on a Sunday on Nisan 18. That's the day he rose, on a Sunday. That was April the 3rd. April the 3rd is when he rises. It is a Sunday. April the 3rd is always a Sunday. So here we go from April the 3rd, when Jesus rises, which is Nisan 18 on a Sunday. That's when you perform the wave sheep offering. From that moment, you count 50 days. When you're counting the 40 days of Jesus' walk, you don't count from the day he rose. And I'll show you why. There's a whole slew of things that happen on that day. And Jesus finally begins to walk with them on the evening of April the 3rd, which becomes April the 4th. Tomorrow after the Sabbath, 50 days, 2 wave loaves. So I did that math, and that math came to, I believe it was, and I'll have the timeline up here in a minute, I believe it was May 21st. All right. Now, Exodus 12, the same thing we find from the 15th to the 21st. It's always from the 15th, the 1 and 20th day. It's always 15th to the 21st. 15th to the 21st, 15th to the 21st. All these passages that we see here. I forgot to tell you the passages. Is that it? Yeah, that's it. So we see here in Exodus 12, 15 to the 21st, we see, and he spells it out very clearly. Leviticus 23, 15 to the 21st. We see it here as well. This is all talking about Passover. It's the most important thing. 15th to the 21st. Pentecost is not quite as important as Passover. 15th to 21st. We see it in Deuteronomy, 15th to 21st. I showed you this last time. What we're waiting for, let me see if this is what I think it is. Yeah. So this is where people will say the sign of Jonah, and it's for a wicked generation, and it is. It's for the Jew. And the Jews are going to be the ones to accept all the people who are not saved, and the Jews will accept the Antichrist as their Messiah. That is going to really upset God, but he's still compassionate and he's still going to fix us. But we don't see that in Luke at all. It's not telling us that. Why? Because we're not a wicked generation. It's not speaking to us. We're not that wicked generation. But the timeline says May 14th, and I'll show you that in a moment. The tribulation saints, the same thing. It says no sign will be given to them, meaning there's not a specific day where a tribulation saint, in other words, we're not going to go on to the Feast of Trumpets and then boom, all the tribulation saints drop dead at that moment and their souls go into heaven. That's a question I have for anybody in the comment section. When do the tribulation saints get their new bodies? Because they're going to die. Their bodies are going to stay. There is no sign. Like people would say, wait a second, if I die, I can see my body go to heaven. And then how many people would just be like, okay, I'm out of here. I'm going to jump in front of that bomb. You know what I'm saying? They don't really know. There's a faith-based process going on here where you just have to have faith that how many of you know that? Have faith that when you die, you're going to be in heaven. The bride certainly does. Tribulation saint, probably. They have that faith. Jew, no, Jews never actually go to heaven. The heaven comes down to them. Jesus comes down to the Jew and reigns and rules here. So again, we don't see this sign. This group here, the tribulation saint, will be given no sign. It says, "There shall no sign be given unto this generation." They can't count or figure out when they're going because it's upon their death. Plain and simple. Now, the Jew, a wicked and adulterous generation. Adultery means what? They're going to worship the Antichrist. They're going to bring him in as their Messiah, and seeketh after a sign. And there shall no sign be given unto it, but the sign of the prophet Jonas. And he left them and departed. The Jew is going to see the rapture, just like the tribulation saint. The Jew will be able to count from the rapture forward 7 years and know when this is all going to be over with. They will be able to count forward from the rapture forward 3.5 years and know that the Antichrist is going to go into the newly built temple and proclaim himself to be God. They're going to see the two witnesses die. They're going to see after 3.5 days or 84 hours, they will rise from the dead and they will go to heaven with their bodies. Go forward here. So we see this in Google, and it says that, now I was trying to work on Moses. I was trying to figure it out. And it turns out there's actually a verse in the Bible I found. I'm a little bit more cautious about, and I had already done the work on Moses. So I have Moses correct on the timeline. On Sivan 6, which is at sunset, Sivan 7, on sunset, on Sivan 6, Moses went up into the mountain, and the 17th of Tammuz, the tablets were broken. I show the 18th of Tammuz. And then on the 19th is when, or perhaps even the same day they began, the 18th or 19th, they burned the golden calf and they ground it into powder and made them drink it. So the only thing I had incorrect on the timeline was the Ascension Day and Pentecost. I had them both wrong, and I fixed it. So And this is being seen of them 40 days. I'm just kind of showing you why I made the mistake, because he actually began to fully walk with them um, after on the shore with bread and fish. And it actually doesn't say that either. So I just kind of took it into an assumption and again made a mistake. Let's see here. Can I go up? For John truly baptized with water, but ye shall be baptized with the Holy Ghost not many days hence. Not many days hence does not mean 50 days. I don't know about you, but sitting in an upper room with 120 guys for 50 days would be brutal. That would be brutal. Now, he was up there for 7 days. 7 days after the 40 days, he was up there. And remember, the Pentecost count is not the same as the 40-day count. They're actually 3.5 days off. People will say, oh, it's 10 days because of the count. You're not counting from the correct event to this end event, if that's what you're coming up with. 10 does not mean anything good for anyone. It means judgment. It doesn't mean anything good. And so the Holy Ghost would not have come back after 10 days. He would have come back after 7. That means the completion or God. All right. So now, I wanted to touch on this. I don't get too much into this. This is not my arena of expertise, but I found it interesting. I think Spinebreaker sent this to me. I believe he did. I find it interesting that he was born probably after dark on September the 14th. Most certainly, if he was born in Chicago, it was definitely already, after dark in Israel to count time. He was born on the Feast of Trumpets 70 years ago. I found that very interesting. It's literally 70 years ago. This guy was born on the Feast of Trumpets. Is he the leader of the tribulation saint to get them through this? I don't know. I don't know. All right. So I revamped this, or Sister Sandy fixed it for me. When Jesus rises, when Jesus finishes, remember, he finishes early in the morning, but he finishes at sunset. That's when the 72 hours finish, but he actually is not found in the grave at about 3 o'clock in the morning. So when we count the time Jesus goes to the cross at 3 o'clock in the afternoon to the time Jesus was found not to be in the grave was 3 o'clock in the morning by Mary. So, but to count your 50 days, you got to start on April the 3rd. To count your 40 days, you have to start when Jesus started walking with them. The sign of Jonah. You have to start counting from April at about 6 o'clock in the afternoon. I'll show that to you in a moment, which is April the 4th. And then you go forward and you go to Ascension Day. Remember, Israel became a nation on May 14th at 11:59 p.m., 11:58 p.m. in Israel. It was a Sunday, which made it May 15th. Again, so that's how you count. And then the two loaf wave offering will happen on Sivan 6. This is the date that a lot of people assume is when Enoch was born. I'm not fully sure of that yet. I thought I had that worked out because of Hanukkah and it matching up perfectly with 3 months earlier to another date. Because if we're going to say Enoch represents the Gregorian or the solar calendar based on Enoch used a stellar calendar, but based on his age of 365, God recognizes the solar calendar and our need to keep solar noon, which is why it appears as though we have 365 and a quarter days each year, when in fact we have 364. The Earth actually only does spin 364 times, spends that extra time to relocate it by 4 minutes each day to keep solar noon. So we see here May 21st, Sivan 6 at sunset is where we count. So it'd be May 22nd, and this count would start on April the 3rd. Then that's when we see Pentecost. I don't think we're going to be here to see Pentecost. I think we're going to go on Ascension Day. I've thought a lot of other dates as well, but mathematically, again, this date works out very nice. May 14th is exactly 40 days from when Jesus, the sign of Jonah, began to walk with them from April the 3rd on down here to May the 14th, actually April the 4th. So let me keep going here. Sister Sandy fixed this last night at about 1 o'clock in the morning. I keep looking for my glasses, but I don't need them. I'm just going to expand this thing. All right. The days of the week never change. I know they do on the Gregorian calendar, but because of that extra day and a quarter, they didn't have a choice. But on Sunday is the day Jesus rose. On Sunday, Jesus rose on Nisan 18. Now, we see in the Bible that Jesus rises. They find the tomb empty about 3 o'clock in the morning. Don't touch me, for I have not ascended to the Father. He ascends to the Father with wheat. He does the wave sheaf offering on our behalf. And then he returns, and I've said it 1,000 times to Thomas in the upper room, but that's not when he returns to begin the 40-day walk. I missed it. I completely missed it. But he made the 40-day walk, and what does he do when he comes back? He catches up to two guys on the road to Emmaus and starts talking to them. The trip is it's 7.5 miles is where I have the picture of it here in a moment. 7.5 miles. It takes an average of 3 hours to do this walk. When they get to their destination, Jesus acts as though he's going to continue to walk, but they press him and say, no, don't go. Stay here with us and let's eat. And then when he broke bread, they realized who he was. And that was sunset when they realized that. So it counts. The 40-day walk begins to count right here. Then he walks for 40 days. Israel becomes a nation, and then at midnight or 6 p.m., it becomes Ascension Day on May the 15th. We are going to see May the 14th. Israel will see May the 15th. I believe the more I study and the more I work out the time spans here, that the rapture is going to be at midnight in Israel, or 11:59 in Israel. I have to say that because people are like, you mean the 13th or the 15th? No, I mean 11:59 p.m. on May the 14th, Israel time. Do the math from your location. For me, that's 5 p.m. here, Eastern Standard Time. If it's midnight in Israel, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here. Now, I've often pondered, will there be an 84-hour warning? Since we see all these 84s, they're just everywhere. 84s just kept popping up everywhere on the timeline. 84, 84, 84 from each event. It was 84. And then over here, 84, 84, 84. 84 hours pops up, and then the two witnesses, 3.5 days. 84 hours pops up everywhere. I've been saying that Jesus was in the grave or was discovered not to be in the grave for a total of 84 hours for the longest time. We've seen this as of late with Aaron over at Got a Minute, noticing the 77 and 84. So when I go forward from there, I'll show you the math and why it all makes sense. Oh, I wanted to show you this before I do that. That was the point I was getting to. 84 hours earlier than May 14th, right here, May 14th at midnight will be noon in Israel on May the 11th. Noon in Israel on May the 11th will be 5, is that right? Yeah, 5 a.m. my time, Eastern Standard Time, on May the 11th. That will be exactly 84 hours. If there was a warning, if there was something to wake up the bride and say, hey, this is it. Get excited. It is about to happen. If an event huge enough that the entire world would take notice, it would happen at noon in Israel on May 11th. And then all of you around the world can do your math from May the 11th. This is the walk. This is where we start. This is why we start counting those 40 days from April the 4th. And behold, this is now Luke 24. You will not find this entire story in Mark. I went and looked. It references Mark, but it doesn't talk about the entire story in Mark. And behold, two of them went that same day to a village called Emmaus, which was from Jerusalem about 80 furlongs. you look it up, that's 7.5 miles. And they talked together all these things which had happened. They had already finished. Jesus was already dead. He was already in the tomb. Everything was done. And it came to pass that while they communed together, reasoned, Jesus himself drew near. He had already been in the grave for 3.5 days by this time, or probably a little bit more, because he sees Mary, don't touch me, for I'm not ascended to the Father. He ascends to the Father. And when he returns, it's still 3 days. It will be 3 days until Monday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. From when it started on Wednesday, I'm sorry, Sunday, I said Monday, Sunday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So at some point before Sunday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, when Jesus gave up the ghost, it had been 3 days. That's when everything was finished. When Jesus said on the cross, it is finished, that's when that time, or God is telling us to start counting that time. It is finished. These guys have met, or Jesus has caught up to these guys on the road to Emmaus at some point before 3 o'clock in the afternoon, because they report that it's still the third day. It's before 3 p.m. All these things happened, and it came to pass that while they communed together and reasoned, Jesus himself drew near and went with them, but their eyes were holden that they should know him. So he's walking with them, but they don't know who he is. They're walking 60 furlongs, 7.5 miles. It takes about 3 hours. When they tell him, you don't know all the things that happened, it is before 3 o'clock in the afternoon when Jesus said it is finished. Because they say here, the third day since these things were done, it is finished. It's been the third day. It is before 3 o'clock in the afternoon on Sunday. And they drew near unto the village whither they went, and he made as though he would have gone further, but they constrained him, saying, Abide with us, for it is towards evening. They've walked 7.5 miles. I've heard it takes about 3 hours to do that. So if they caught up with them, let's say 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, now it is getting closer to 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening, and they tell him to stay. The day is far spent, meaning it's about to get dark, and they wanted him to stay there with them. And, oh, excuse me. And he went to tarry with them, and it came to pass, he sat to meat, and the finish of the scripture is that their eyes were open. Oh, never mind, it's right here. And he took bread and blessed it and brake and gave unto them, and their eyes were open, and they knew him, and he vanished. He just disappears right there out of their sight. 7 days later, on the self same day, he will, again Sunday, he will appear to Thomas in the upper room. And as a matter of fact, the next passage, which I didn't record, starts to say that he's in the upper room and they handled him and everything else. Oh, here's the math I did on that. Let's sit here doing it mentally. May the 11th, 11:58 a.m. in Israel, because on May 14th at 11:56 p.m., Israel became a nation in 1948. This will be 3.5 days, just shy of 2 minutes if I had done the math correctly, but 3.5 days right there. Oh, I did 56. That's why I did that. I didn't notice that. Should have done 58. It would have been three days, 12 hours. All right. That's the last of it there. Let me stop sharing. So keep your eyes up, keep looking. That's just a lot of us are looking at May 14th for a variety of reasons. And that's some math, timeline math right there you can look at as to why. It is May 14th. May 14th is Ascension Day. I wish I would have figured that out years ago, but I did not. I did not apply to the sign of Jonah, which I should have. But now we know. Here in these last moments, now we know. And again, if we were to get a warning, I would suspect in Israel at around noon tomorrow, and adjust for your time, that we would see some kind of an event or some kind of warning. The only ones that are going to believe in that warning anyway would be us. Um, Satan is poised and ready to try to capture us as we go up. We already know that's not possible, so we don't have anything to fret over that. We don't have anything to worry about. God's got us. He's not going to lose a single one of us, and He's going to take us out of here. So go in the interest of keeping the video short to get more people to watch this. Share this video, like, comment, because this is where the Jews would start counting from. And tribulation saints, you're going to be okay. You just don't deny God. Don't deny Him. That's what it says. You died for the Word of God, meaning, are you one of them crazy Christians? Yes, bam. That's it. And you're in heaven. So the only question I had in the video was, can somebody tell me if they know when the tribulation saints will receive? They'll get wash white robes. We see that in palm branches. But when do we see them getting their new everlasting bodies? Does that happen at the end of the 1,000 years? Does that happen at the end of the 7 years? I'm not quite sure. I'm curious. So go to a quiet place by yourself. Nobody needs to know, and you don't need to tell anybody except the Lord in your heart. We are in those last hours right now. If we're correct, we're in those last hours. If we're not, we're going to keep looking and try to figure it out. But honestly, Amos 3:7 just seems to me like it's being fulfilled right in front of our faces, right there, the exact time, you know. And no man could have figured that out. God told us from the very beginning. How ironic, by the way, and how incredible that we went through all this only to have the date right there in front of us the entire time. So we'll chat with you all again later, and hopefully on the other side. Hopefully it's my last video. I don't know. We shall see, right? Let me get that big smile that Bay put on there. You guys see that cartoon that Bay made? Oh my goodness. All right, we will chat with you all again later.